If you want to see who a person really is, go through a divorce,
Yeah.
or go through a breakup.
Yeah.
That's when the true nature of the person comes out. The problem with so many relationships, again, especially today, because we're all trying to juggle so many things in our lives, is people, the relationship goes south and there's a breakup that's intimate and imminent. And we see this side of the other person, that we hadn't seen before. And yet, so many people either one, reconcile or try to reconcile, even having seen the red flags now of what that person's true feelings and real behavior is behind their toxicity and their caustic nature. When that's revealed, we're surprised, but not really.
You're listening to the What's Up with DJ podcast with your host and personal development coach, David DJ Lloyd Jr. Each week, he brings you current events and trending topics from a spiritual perspective, including career development, finance, holistic living, and life hacks, along with stories that invoke humor and inspiration. So if you're ready, let's join the conversation. Here's DJ.
My guest this week is Branch Isole. He's the author of 22 books, poet, and storyteller. He's known worldwide for contemporary short stories and that reveal emotions and issues often experienced but not always voiced. Branch graduated from Texas State University, received his postgraduate work at University of Houston, and holds an Oxford Master's Theology degree from Trinity Bible College and Seminary. On YouTube, Branch shares informative steps to build frameworks that support career, personal, and spiritual growth. On his website, www.branchisole.com, he posts a thought for the day, short stories, and articles. Branch writes about strength of choice to change consequences. Hey, how are you doing today, sir?
Good afternoon, GJ. What's up?
Yes.
Always to say that.
Thank you. I love it. And I see that logo all the time because I'm constantly, I'm editing and doing things with it. So it's like in the back of my head. I think I wake up in the middle of the night thinking, what's up with DJ? Like, what is what with me? So so your background, you have a long, education in theology and seminary. Looking at your background in terms of, I don't know what your degree at Texas State University was, but I'm assuming that it had something to do with theology or with personal development, even probably your postgraduate degree.
Actually, my Texas State degree is a Bachelor of Science. I was a teacher, public school teacher. I taught middle school and high school, and then I went into public school administration. I was an assistant principal, and my University of Houston postgraduate degree was in educational administration. So those two, happened at the same time. The theology degree came a lifetime later. I was moved just to go back to school. I got onto a spiritual path about halfway through my life and decided I needed to change my life. So the spiritual path led me in a different direction than the corporate path and the entrepreneur path, that I had been on. And with the study came the degree, and then came the writing.
Okay, that's great, man. So what happened in your life that made you feel as though you wanted to put spirituality at the forefront of your life?
Wow. Well, I grew up in the 50s in a military family and went to college, and after college was in the corporate world, and I was quite successful, but I always felt something was missing. I was I was on that corporate treadmill and devoting all of my time, to climbing the ladder and doing the things I needed to do to get ahead. And along the way, I was embracing the ways of the world. And like many people, I found out that, some of my choices were not really in my best interests. And so I decided to leave that world. And when I did, I went into the world of entrepreneurship. I was a founder and partner in 5 different startup small businesses. And so, that requires a whole lot different kind of responsibilities than being an employee for a large corporation. So along with that and my spiritual journey, I was trying to discover what truth was and what it really meant to me in terms of how I responded to the people and the events in my life. And, when I was walking the world's path, I was responding the way I thought the world wanted me to respond. And the costs of that, that mask that I wore and the person that I present became very costly. So I decided to, leave that world behind and go in a different direction. That's how I got onto the spiritual path. And, it, like most people who get on the path and stay on the path, it made a big difference to me. And when I realized, what I was now embracing and the benefits, there was no going back.
Yeah. Yeah. Once you taste a little bit of it, you just know that this is right, and I think a lot of people that I've spoken to have had an experience where they are, having a corporate, a very successful career, but it just doesn't feel right. It doesn't fill them up. And you still have those questions. And once you, begin to look and you begin getting answers, you want to keep on digging for more answers. And I'm not making it seem as though it was an easy way, because a path on spirituality is I think is more daunting than it is just not being mindful at all of your spiritual life, So I definitely think that's a great thing when someone decides to put the spirituality first, when they could have just said, ignore, if they can say they just, ignore it. I think that's a very bad decision to ignore if you're one of those individuals that have to respond.
Well, like Bob Dylan said, you're going to have to serve somebody. It may be the Lord or it may be the devil, but you're going to have to serve somebody.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully the one works out for you better than the other.
Well, generally it does. But you embrace one or the other. And when we embrace something, we become passionate about it. And the more passionate about it we become, the more invested we become. And so, it's a path. And like you say, it's not an overnight. Either one is a path that's not overnight. We build as we grow and as we age. And we build upon the things that we know and the things that we've done. And for every one of us, some of those are good, some are bad, and some are plain right ugly. And, we have to make a choice. And as you alluded to in the introduction, that's what my writing is about, is for every choice we make, there's a consequence. And, that consequence has benefits, but it also can have some downside to it. And a lot of people, get in a situation or get in repetitive situations where they make poor choices, and the fallout or the consequences, are very dire and sometimes very dangerous. And so they're not often sure, okay, how do I get out of this? And then what do we do once I get out of it? So choice and consequence.
Yeah. Yeah. And you coach people and provide spiritual support to your clients. And what kind of support do you provide them, and what kind of issues do you help people resolve, or
Wow.
support, comfort?
Well, most of my work is done through my writing, through books and articles and podcasts, actually. And uh, the things that I focus on are spiritual grounding and growth is the first one. That's the big one. And then relationships, developing, good relationships, repairing damaged relationships. And then I help with work-life balance for some folks who are trying to make that career happen for them without sacrificing, family and home and leisure. And then, of course, one that's always popular today is avoiding adversities, stepping around that hole instead of trying to dig ourselves out. And then a lot of my work now privately is about end time events and Bible prophecy. So those are kind of the 5 areas that I focus on with people and listeners and readers.
And so for your relationships, and I always say the thing that I think I said to you before in another when we talked before, that the thing that we teach is the thing that we most need to learn. And, and one of the things that I'm interested to find out is about, your relationships and how you help people with relationships. And in order to really help anybody with anything, you have to have go through something yourself. You have to have been through something yourself that you've got beyond in order to help someone else get through whatever they're going through. So what maybe are some of the things that you've helped others with? And, it's a double barrel question. You help others with, and also some of the things that you've been through in relationships.
Well, like most people, we go into every relationship sort of with eyes wide open, but we always go in trying to put our best foot forward, just like you do in a job interview. But it's only when you've been on the job or you've been in the relationship that we actually, A, start to learn about the other person, and B, start to reveal things about ourselves. And so, as our relationships grow, and whether it's personal or an intimate relationship, or whether it's a relationship, as part of a team in a career or a work situation, the more we are with people, the more we learn about people, and the more we learn about their lives and their thoughts and ideas and what makes them tick. That being said, we always keep something back. Everyone has an agenda. And when people come into your life, it's good to realize that no matter who they may seem to be, they have an agenda for their life too. And they want something generally from you that will help them, move forward or do what they're trying to accomplish in their life. So keeping that thought in mind allows you to keep a balance, between how much you get invested and how much you reveal. If we know one thing about living in today's world with social media and instant access, is that everything you say or do and let be recorded, can be shown to the world and come back to haunt you, to bring those skeletons out of the closet. So you have to be, you have to be open, but you also have to be guarded with people today. And that's what happens in relationships. We start to divulge information about ourselves to the people who are important to us and who we care about. And the deeper we get into the relationship, the more we allow them to know about us. But the question becomes, am I really allowing myself to be vulnerable to this person? And do I trust them enough with this information to want to grow with them? And that's sort of the core of every relationship. It's about growth. so that I can grow as an individual, but so that we can grow, as a couple or a family or a team. And so to contribute to that growth, I have to be vulnerable. And a lot of people, that's very difficult for them to sort of reveal the inner self, who they really are, not necessarily who they present themselves to us to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is why, relationships have a tendency to be strained or crumble, because when we are willing to reveal our true self to them, it's like you said, that forces us to look at something that we struggle with or that we see as a fault.
Mm-hmm.
And so, for that growth to take place, we've got to be able to reveal both the good and the not so good and grow through that. And that's what relationships are about, is having someone to help grow through the things that are tough for you. In the ideal situation in a relationship, we have balance, right? 50-50 would be the ideal situation. But we never have that 50-50 balance. It can't be that even and that equitable at all times. So I often encourage people, especially in relationships, personal relationships and intimate relationships, who are struggling, is you want to get that balance as close to 50-50 as you can. So let's say 49-51 would be ideal. But what that means is when there's a decision to be made in our family or, with my spouse, and it's critical for our growth as a couple, then we both need to be involved. We both need to have an opportunity to put our 2 cents in. And we've come to a place where, I know what her strengths are and she knows what my strengths are. But we also know each other's weaknesses. So when we face a situation where we've got to make a choice for the family, we discuss it and we talk about all the good we see, all the bad we see, and all the ugly we see in it. And whichever one of us has most strength takes the lead, and the other one becomes the support and the cheerleader. And sometimes that's me, and most of the time it's her. But she's just a very strong person. So in the beginning of any relationship, it's hard for the man, particularly, to sometimes take that backseat role. But once you realize that your partner has our best interest at heart, not just her best interest or his best interest, but our best interest, it becomes easier to encourage them to take the lead, and do the heavy lifting and the hard legwork that needs to be done to get us down that path so that we can make the best choice possible.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So what I gather from what you said is that, being open and honest about who you are, not only in the beginning of the relationship, but as the relationship continues to grow.
If you want to see who a person really is, go through a divorce.
Or
go through a breakup,
Yeah.
That's when the true nature of the person comes out. The problem with so many relationships, again, especially today, because we're all trying to juggle so many things in our lives, is people, the relationship goes south and there's a breakup that's intimate and imminent. And we see this side of the other person, that we hadn't seen before. And yet so many people either, one, reconcile or try to reconcile, even having seen the red flags now of what that person's true feelings and real behavior is behind their toxicity and their caustic nature. When that's revealed, we're surprised, but not really, because we often see it coming, as the relationship evolves or devolves. And so for people who go through a bad breakup and then go back with that person, it can only get worse, because people generally don't want to change. In order to change, it's like you said before, I have to look at myself, and I have to look at, what I've done to contribute to this situation, be it good or not so good. And if I'm willing to look at, what I've contributed to it, then there's a chance for me to grow and become a better person and become a better person in the relationship. And those are tough choices to make.
Those are a lot of issues because, one thing you mentioned was when you are, you come into a relationship and you have problems of your own. And, I feel as though people do into relationships to work out their own internal stuff. And that's one thing that a relationship, I think, does provide. It's a chance for you to see, the person that you're with is always with you. They're if you're in a marriage that's really about love and compassion and support, you're always there with that particular person. You sleep with them, you have children with them, you have bills with them, you share a home with them. So they see all your stuff. They see all the issues that you have, all your personality conflicts, all of your hypocrisy, all these things. That they have a front row seat to all these things. And if someone sees your, where you are not consistent, then they're going to tell you. They're going to tell you. And it's up to you to believe them. Now, if I'm, married to someone and we're sharing our lives, then the person that I would want to opinion that I think I would need to trust the most would be that person who has a front row seat to my life. But unfortunately, that doesn't happen. People do not get in a relationship with someone, married to someone who advice they can take or they trust, which is so odd to me.
Well, we all come out of childhood, damaged to some degree, and we bring with us into adulthood all of those things, all of those aspects of our personality that make us who we are as adults. And all of us have some insecurity, that we carry with us. And as long as that insecurity has a hold on us in terms of who we see ourselves as, and most insecurities we don't show to the world, nor do we show to our partner. That takes time. It takes time for us to get a hold of it, get a grasp on it, and realize that we can get through it. And like you said, that's hopefully what the person, you're sharing your life with, hopefully they can help you with your weaknesses through their strengths. But you have to be vulnerable. You have to vocalize those things. And you have to agree that, nobody is perfect. We've all made mistakes. We've all done things that we're ashamed or embarrassed by. And we don't want to go back to that place. Once we can reveal that to somebody else, after we've revealed it to ourselves, and that's the key, I have to deal with my insecurities. I'm short, I'm overweight, I'm balding. And if those things keep control of me, then I'm always grappling with that. If I can come to grips with those things and realize that's part of who I am, but there are other parts of who I am that are good and benevolent and loving and caring, and focus on being that person and get over, the thing that bugs me about myself. If I can come to grips with that insecurity, then I can continue to grow. The person I'm with already knows those things about me. I mean, they wake up with you in the morning and see you at your kind of your worst, actually. Mm-hmm. So they already know that. So it's my stuff I have to come to grips with, and if I can do that, then I can grow. I can become stronger as an individual and as a person, in a relationship, and a better employee. And my people, my family, my workers, the people I spend my time with in my life can also see that part of me. And that's the part we enjoy about other people. We don't really care about, the teeth that they're missing if we enjoy them in our life and have fun with them. I mean, we see the good things in people. It's only when we're disgusted with them that we go looking for the bad things, the bad traits, you know.
Did you just say that the teeth are missing?
I've got a neighbor who comes in and buys eggs from me. He's such a great guy, but he's missing all of his lower teeth. You know, when I talk to him, I'm focused on this missing teeth and thinking, you know, dude, why don't you get some false or something? But he's such a great guy, you know. So it's just a visual thing. My folks is here, but I'm really enjoying his company. So, you know, it doesn't bother him, so it certainly shouldn't bother me.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
Life is about relationships, and we all want good, positive, loving, caring relationships. That's our nature as human beings. You know, when we focus on the negative stuff, that's our stuff. You know, we're trying to get over our own insecurities and faults and things that bug us about ourselves, just like you said a minute ago.
Have, especially something in a committed relationship, is a spiritual testimony in itself. And if you go in with that understanding, then I think you get much better results than going in with some you know, some Hollywood idea of what a relationship supposed to be.
Sure, you know, spirituality is the core of who we are. We don't always realize it or want to admit it, but you know, God is spirit, and if God is the creator of the universe, then we too are part of his creation. So we are spirit, and when we innately are born with a spirit, we're a combination of mind, body, soul, and spirit. So spirituality is innately part of us as human beings. However, you know, because we grow up in societies, legalistic societies that focus on the how of right and wrong, or more often reward and punishment, when we don't have that, we have not reestablished that spiritual connection that is part of our origination, we don't understand the why. And the why is the morality and the ethics, which are the character and nature of God himself, morality and ethics. When we have that spiritual connection, then we understand not only the how, which pertains to me, the individual here in this world, but I also now have a knowledge of the why, which is the morals and the ethics, which allows me to step outside of my own self and what's important to me or what's in it for me, and better understand how it affects other people. You know, how do my actions affect my family, my spouse, my coworkers, my employer, my community, my world? And without that spiritual grounding, we miss the why part. We miss the part about being a moral and ethical person in our choices and our behavior. And if we've not got that spiritual connection, all we understand is the how. What's in it for me? How do I get what I want? And it's either going to be a reward for me or a punishment. And that's a tough way to live our lives. That's why, as you say, spiritual maturity is so important, because it helps you become a better you, a better person, a better husband, a better father, a better wife, a better employee, a better friend.
Yeah, definitely. Everything you said was definitely on point. I mean, that's the key to it. It's that's if everyone went into their relationships with that perspective, we wouldn't have such a high divorce rate, you know. And a lot of people wouldn't be married to people that they really shouldn't be married to in the first place if they went in there with that perspective. But you know, life is a lesson in itself. Something like life is a lesson in terms of you meeting someone and it may not work out, but still there's a lesson in that, you know. So one last question. I want to talk a little bit about the bucket list, and the item that many people ignore. and I want to get everyone has a bucket list. Everyone has the things they want to achieve, they want to do before they leave this earth. There's even a movie about it with Morgan Freeman about the bucket list. And I even have mine. Like, I want to go to this country, and I want to have this kind of car before it's all said and done. But you say there's one item that many people ignore. And what is that item? What is that thing that people do not seem to include on their bucket list?
Well, our bucket list is like you say, it's about our wishes, our wants, our desires, right? The things in this life that we want to experience before our last breath. But what about after that last breath? What comes next for you? And I think that's the item that many ignore or haven't thought about or don't have on their bucket list. So my suggestion is add that to your bucket list. What about after that last breath? What does that look like? Where am I going to be? And, some people think heaven, some people think hell, some people just think it's over and oblivion. But the question becomes, if I want it to be, or if I believe that it's going to be heaven, then how am I going to ensure that that last bucket list item is as achievable as all of the ones that I achieved before I took that last breath? And so, there's a process to making sure that happens. And this is why the love of God is so great and so benevolent, is he makes it very simple. We don't have to do a lot. We only have to do one thing. We have to invite Jesus Christ into our life. And when we do that, his love is so great that we don't have to do anything else. When we give him that invitation and ask him to come into our lives, he does so. And he does so by sending us his Holy Spirit to live and be within our soul, to abide with our spirit. And once we have his spirit, from that moment on, every time we have a choice or a decision to make, we have the right and the privilege to ask him for guidance, for instruction, for help. And so when we've got that choice to make, we say, well, what would Jesus do in this same situation? And when we ask that question, his spirit living within us will give us the answer. It will show us the consequences of the choice that we're about to make. And we can choose to do what we want to do. That's what I call choosing the world's way. Or we can choose what Jesus would do. That is what God would have us do. And he always has our best interests at heart. We can make that choice. And in either case, whatever we choose, he will still love us and be ready again to respond the next time we ask. But if we choose to respond the way Christ would respond in that same situation, then we have reaffirmed to ourselves that he is the way and the truth and the life. And I'll leave your listeners with this. The one thing you need to do before you take your last breath is you need to read, understand, and believe what Romans 10, that's the book of Romans, chapter 10, verses 9, 10, 13, and 17 say. And if you will read that and understand it, no matter how you live your life from this moment on, your sins will be covered, your spirit will be saved, and you will have achieved that last breath bucket list item.
But yes, you need to add Romans to. I want to read that definitely. You said Romans. What chapter?
Romans 10, chapter 10, verses 9, 10, 13, and 17.
Okay. All right. Okay. I'm writing that down, people. I'm writing that down. Well, I'm so glad that you enjoy me. Now, how do people get a hold of you? I know you said www.brancheisole.com, even said that in the intro. And so we can reach you on to get the quote of the day, or I believe it's, I'm probably saying it wrong, it's thought of today. You can get that. And also your books, short stories, and also articles. But how can the other people, how can the listeners reach out to you outside of going to www.brancheisole.com, which I will also have down in the show description?
Well, that's the easiest way. Just Google my name, Branch, like tree, I-S, like Sam, O-L-E. And that brings up my website, my YouTube channel, my books, my writings, my podcast, guest places, everything, all the links are right there. So just Branch Isole. I'm the only one, so you don't have to go through a lot of pages. It'll be the first thing you pull up. And that's got all the links for people who are interested in, knowing more, reaching out, sending questions, comments. Just there's a link in the website for all of that.
And once you go to, because when I went to Branch Isole, I did get forwarded to, I believe it's Manu Publishing.
Manao Publishing. That's our publishing company.
Okay.
That's our homepage.
Okay. I don't want you to be confused.
They both go to the same place.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate you being here and discussing relationships. Sometimes we don't have a chance to discuss relationships from a spiritual perspective. And, I'm usually discussing relationship with people and they're like, no, because they don't want to look at that. They don't want to look at the spiritual aspects of relationships. And that's important as well, to that you do have to look at it from that perspective. I think your relationships will last longer if both individuals come to the relationship with that perspective. But that's me and Branch, how we feel about it.
Yeah. Well, when you have that spiritual connection, it's a true connection. It goes deeper than what kind of car I have, what kind of house I have, what I do for a living. It takes you to another level of intimacy, with whoever you're involved with in your life, male, female, whatever. We all have that spirit within us. It's part of who we are. So we need to celebrate it, recognize it, and allow it to be part of who we are in our daily lives.
Yes, I definitely agree. Well, thank you. I hope we have a chance to talk in the future, and I wish you well.
What's up, DJ? What's up, brother?